Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of My Future Energy Career. Today's STEM hero, we have Lauren Seymour. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, how are you?
Doing good. How about you?
Good, thanks.
Cool, cool. Yeah, so Lauren is a program manager here at the Energy Coalition, and we're so happy to have you. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to her, and you can tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do as a career.
Great, thanks. Yeah, so like you mentioned, I'm a program manager here at the Energy Coalition. So what I do is I oversee a team of staff, and they're working on a program, and we really aim to help cities and schools and counties save energy and money for their communities by pursuing energy and sustainability projects. So it could be, new LED lighting in a building, or maybe they're interested in adding solar panels. So we kind of help them figure that out and hopefully implement those projects.
Cool. Yeah, super cool. And just a little question. How has the COVID-19 pandemic kind of affected your work in these projects?
Yeah, so right away, there was definitely a bit of a pause on things as cities and especially schools were trying to figure out what their next move was. But we actually found around the summer things started to pick back up. I think, it was kind of almost an opportunity to do work at facilities if people were at home. This way they could kind of move things along so that when everybody can return, they can have their projects already completed.
Right, super cool. All right, so we're gonna move on to a little bit about where you're from.
Yeah, so I'm from a very small town in northern Nevada. It's about 20 minutes from Lake Tahoe, which is that picture there. And the motto over there is to keep Tahoe blue. And that kind of focuses on just taking care of the lake and making sure that we can preserve it for future generations. And so I think that was kind of my first exposure to really learning about how humans can have an impact on their environment. And I grew up with one younger sister. She's 3 years younger than me. And we spent our summers camping and hiking with our family around Lake Tahoe and Mammoth area as well. My dad actually worked for Yosemite National Park when he was younger for a few years. And so he kind of passed on his appreciation for the outdoors to us.
Yeah, awesome. Tahoe is a beautiful place. You were saying that the whole Keep Tahoe Blue movement inspired your involvement with human interaction with the environment. And I was just wondering, while you were in Tahoe, were there any projects you participated in, like any cleanups, lake cleanups, or anything that was in that field of reducing our impact on our environment?
Yeah, definitely lake cleanups. And then it's a lot of education too. So we would learn, in school and, if you take a boat from one lake that has kind of different microorganisms or something and move it to another one without properly cleaning it, it can have kind of an impact on the ecosystems there. So definitely the educational component too was really important.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, and we're gonna move on to some of your interests.
Yes, so I love to travel and explore either my own neighborhood or love to travel abroad, love to try new foods and restaurants, generally just like to eat in general. And then in normal times, I really like music festivals and live music. But lately, kind of with COVID, been doing more activities away from humans, so more hiking and riding my bike and stuff. But definitely looking forward to when we can all travel and go see live shows again.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that day too, trust me. And I was just wondering, what are some of your favorite places that you travel to, and what were your favorite foods from those places?
I'd say closer to home, San Francisco is one of my favorite cities. And I love all the food in Chinatown there. And abroad, some of my favorite places, that top photo is from Taiwan, and they have a ton of good food there. And then also San Sebastian, Spain. It's a smaller town in smaller city in the north of Spain, but I studied abroad there and have gone back there quite a few times. It's probably one of my favorite places. And they have really good pinchos, which is tapas essentially, where you kind of go from place to place and have a bunch of little bites.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I definitely want to visit those places sometime in my life. But yeah, okay. Thank you for sharing, and we'll go right on to your educational pathway.
Great. So for my undergrad education, I went to the University of Nevada, Reno, and I focused on international environmental studies there. And so through those classes, I kind of learned a lot more about global climate change and kind of the more broader environmental issues around the world. And while I was there, one of my professors became a really good mentor. And so he kind of helped me focus on, where I wanted my career path to go. And that led me to pursuing a graduate degree. And I went to the University of Texas at Austin. And there I focused on energy policy. And I spent a summer in DC as a fellow for the Department of Energy. So that was a really cool experience. But yeah, definitely have my mentor to thank for kind of helping guide me and figure out what I want to do.
Yeah, wow, that is quite the journey. And I just wanted to ask, I know college seems like a very intimidating stage of life for some high schoolers, and to that very, very much so for graduate school as well. And I was
Mhm.
just wondering, what were some challenges that you faced, like coming into grad school? Were some of your expectations different from what you're expecting, or any challenges that arose?
Definitely, it's a challenging thing to pursue. I think for me, I was pretty young. I went almost straight from undergrad to my graduate degree, and so I was one of the youngest students there. There were a lot of people who had way more experience than me, I felt were way smarter than me. And so, that kind of led to almost a feeling like I didn't belong there, but, just worked really hard and kind of proved to myself that, I deserved to be there as much as they did.
Yeah, some great words of wisdom coming from our STEM hero today. We'll move on to some challenges and some things you had to learn to get here.
Yeah, the biggest one I'd say is probably patience with myself and perseverance. So there were, the kind of math or statistical analysis courses. Those things don't come very easily for me, and so they were required for my degrees. And so I just had to put in kind of the extra work and extra effort on those. I found that the extra work I put in, definitely I saw the results and the outcome there. And then the second thing is flexibility. So I thought I wanted to go into research when I was in undergrad. And so I did a research project with my professor and definitely found out that's not what I want to do. And so I kind of had to just be flexible and changing maybe what I had in mind for what my path would be. And then confidence. So kind of touched on this just now, but I had to learn to have confidence in my own ability and kind of what I can achieve.
Yeah, again, very, very wise words. Yeah, so I know for a lot of people, what they initially think they want to do isn't actually, they find that it's not something they want to do. And I was just wondering, do you have any advice for them, like the first steps of transitioning their interests or what they want to do as a career? Like, what first steps should they take to making that transition?
Yeah, I think one thing to kind of maybe help you feel more confident in it is looking at what skills do you have maybe from what you've already done that could translate. So maybe it's a totally different, school subject or a different field at work, but oftentimes there are skills you have that can be translated. So if you worked in customer service, you'd often have really good people skills or able to interact with people easily, and that can be translated to a lot of different fields or subject areas.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for sharing that. And then we'll move on to a little bit about your advice.
Yeah, so there's a theme here, I think, but my advice is just don't underestimate yourself or undersell yourself. Have confidence in your own ability, and then explore what interests you. So again, don't be afraid to pivot if your interests kind of change. Adults make career changes all the time. So you can constantly kind of pivot and change based on your interests. And then lastly, I would say be a sponge. So absorb and learn everything you can from people around you. If you can find a mentor, it could be one of your teachers or maybe somebody in your community, but their experience might not seem super relevant at the time, but you never know what they might teach you, or you might get exposed to something that you didn't know about before. So just never stop learning.
Yeah, great. I really like your persisting message of you're never locked into one field and it's never too late to change. I think that's really great advice.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And yeah, so now we're gonna move on to a little Q&A. I'll just ask you a few questions here.
Okay.
First of all, at work or at school, did you ever have a task where you had no idea what you're doing? And what were your steps to learning how to do that task or project?
Yeah, so, I would say both in school and work, I've been in that situation. And the first kind of step I usually take is just reviewing all the information I've already been given or have. And so just making sure that I haven't missed anything, or using all the resources I already have available. And then, kind of taking a first stab at something and then asking for feedback or advice. So, getting a start and then asking for feedback can kind of help redirect you if you're going in the wrong direction before you've totally spent a ton of time on something.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing that. And last question for the day. What made you want to get into energy? Was there a certain event that happened or a speaker you saw or just any pivotal moment that made you want to go into energy?
For me, it was during undergrad. I was really interested in kind of broader environmental issues, and from everything I was learning, I kept coming back to energy consumption being just such a large driver of greenhouse gas emissions. And so to me, I wanted to work in that field and try to make an impact there, just seeing the connection between energy usage and greenhouse gas emissions and wanting to work to reduce that.
Yeah, great. All right. Well, that wraps it up for the interview. I just want to say thank you again so much, Lauren, for coming on and sharing your education and professional pathway on this My Future Energy Career webinar.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and I also want to give a big thanks to all our viewers. I hope you enjoyed this webinar. And if you're looking for more webinars like this, make sure to go to YouTube and search up My Future Energy Career.